Hello, everyone. I wanted to start this webinar out by getting something off my chest. First of all, every year about, I don't know, January, February, I'd start thinking about how am I going to advertise for next year? How am I going to bring more clients into my business? And every year I would think about how much money I'm going to spend to do that. And each year I would spend that money and keep my fingers crossed. And I would get potentially more leads. Maybe I didn't get more leads, but the reality is there was always a sunken cost in advertising, right? And I found over time, the more money I put into advertising, I wasn't getting that kind of a multiple back in clients and billable projects. So I started thinking about it. I said, you know what? For all the time that we spend as designers going out, first acquiring the leads through advertising and spending the money for that, and then going out to their properties and spending Friday nights and Saturdays and all these odd hours to meet their time frames to make sure that they're home from work and the kids are there or whatever it might be, I found that that was eating up so much time of my life. And all to end up with a few of them saying yes, I felt like I was wasting my life. I feel like, there's so much more I could be doing with that time that could be more valuable for myself and for my family. So what I found is after going out to those clients and getting them, some of them to say yes, I found that so many of them were saying, hey, thanks for coming out. We have a few more contractors coming out to take a look at this project. Thanks for your free ideas. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not really here to give away free ideas. And I'm not really here to have my time wasted either. And I know none of you guys are either. So I'm getting sick and tired of going out to those meetings and not getting clients from it. And I had to come up with a better way because I was done with that shit. There's no more of that happening here. The crazy part is I'm sure most of you can relate to those kinds of events where you go out to these meetings, the clients are just looking for either free ideas or they're looking to, just get some idea because they're finally deciding to do something with their property, right? So today we're going to talk more about how to double sales without spending more on advertising, but I want to get into some fundamentals first so you get a sense of where we're going to come from so that we can grow from that point to get to that final idea. So we have to think about the average closing rate, believe it or not, in the landscape design build industry is somewhere between 25 and 50%. Now, some people are much higher than that and others are on the low side. Think about that. That's 25% closing rate means that you have to see 4 customers before you get 1. Think about that. Even at 50%, you've got to see 2 customers before you get 1. Sounds a lot better, but it can get a lot better than that. Trust me. If you think about how much time you spend on these projects, let's just do some quick numbers here. If you were to spend, let's say, 45 minutes to drive to a client's house, you spend an hour to speak with them, you have 45 minutes to drive home, roughly maybe 30 minutes to put together a proposal or whatever. We're not even getting into the design side of things yet. We're just talking about a proposal maybe for that design. Altogether, that's about 3 hours. Now multiply that times an average, maybe we're just going to use a number of 9, right? 9 calls per week. So if you do that, that's 27 hours. 3 hours per lead times 9 leads is 27 hours a month. Or a week, sorry, a week that you're investing in driving out to these clients' houses and looking and only ending up with maybe even at a middle range, let's say 33% that you're closing, somewhere between 25 and 50, 33%, that's 1 in 3. Think about that. You're spending 27 hours a week going out to look at clients' projects, and at the end of it, when you get back, you get 3 of them. What the hell? What's the point? That is so much wasted time. Just imagine if you had a 100% close rate. You would go out to 3 projects, you would have 3 clients, you would have invested 9 hours, and you would have 3 projects. That's 18 hours you're going to save a week just by being better at closing the clients that you already have. So I hope that makes sense. It's a crazy realization. So instead of investing tons of money and trying to get more and more clients to come in the door just so you can only sell 1 out of every 4, 1 out of every 3, 1 out of every 2. Imagine for a moment if you could sell every 1, or 9 out of 10, or even 8 out of 10. Imagine if you had that kind of effectiveness when when clients reach out to you, that you're able to help them. And it's not, I use the word sell, but I'm not looking to have, sell them. I'm looking to help them buy. Okay, so just let's clear that up in the beginning. Sales is not sleazy if it's done with ethics and morality, but the idea of sales has gotten pretty beat up lately, and it's more tied, that word's tied to the old used car salesman and all that stuff that nobody wants to be part of. So again, we got to think about how we help them buy, and if we can increase how many people we can help buy by multiples, think about how much more sales you can bring home with the same clients you have now, the ones that are already calling. That's my point here. That's the way we can make this happen. That's how we can increase your overall ability to sell and your overall ability to close with the same amount of clients that you already have without investing in that advertising. Now, today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we're going to do that. I have 5 steps here laid out, how we're going to be able to maximize that and to minimize the amount of wasted time, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't have time to waste. And when I go out to a client's house, I want to make sure that there's at least a 90% certainty that we're going to be working together, that I can add value to their lives, and that they're going to end up paying me what I'm worth in order to do that. That's the big piece here. So I'd like to say we do have a question section here. You can ask questions if you like, but I please ask you to hold them until the end, because I might answer some of those questions throughout this webinar. So the first step here, in order to getting that number, instead of being at 25 to 50% closing rate, the way to bring that up is to be talking to the right people, right? So that seems pretty stupid simple. You say, Josh, great, like my cat could have told me that, right? But it's so true. So often, I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but I know I can. When I first started, as soon as that phone would ring, I'd be like, all right, no problem, I'll be out tomorrow. Because when they did that, I felt excited. My ego got a boost. I started thinking, wait a minute here. They called me. They could have called anybody from the Yellow Book back then. They called me. So I felt the obligation, since they called me, to go talk to them, at least talk to them. Because if I could get in front of them, I could sell them. Isn't that the old adage? That's how I felt forever, right? If you could get out in front of them, you could sell them. But the crazy part is, that always wasn't the case. And the quicker I responded with a meeting, the less I actually sold, because they feel like, look, he doesn't really value his time. He says, look, I'll be out tomorrow. He can't be that busy. So maybe he's just not as good as we think he is. So maybe that's how they start their entire impression of you before you even get started. So again, it's important for you to identify your ideal client. And this is how you do that. So think about the last 3 projects you did with people that you really, really enjoyed. I mean, like the kind that you felt like at the end you wanted to sit down and have dinner with, or have a glass of wine with once the project was done, like those clients. Think about those clients and start painting a picture in your head about what they look like, where they live, their home value, things like their ages, their careers. Do they have kids? Do they not? Are they married? Are they single? Do they have hobbies? Do they belong to a golf club? Do they like to vacation? If so, where? And what kind of values do you sense within their conversations? Do they value family time? Do they value work over everything else? Do they value entertaining friends and being the center of attention? Once you start determining what these little pieces are for your clients, especially those top 3 ideal clients, you're going to start being able to create what we like to call an avatar, or the perfect client. That might sound all fantastic. We're like, all right, great. I have a perfect client and I think about this person, I dream about this person, but what the hell does that mean? Seriously, like at the end of the day, what does that mean if I actually know what they look like and what they drive and what careers they have? The important part here is that you really truly know how to focus on who you want as your ideal avatar, your ideal client. And the reason why that's important is because once you start thinking about that person, you're going to get more of them. Believe it or not, I don't know how else to say it, but the universe knows that. Once you start framing the box in which you know that your clients live in, you start to see more of them coming your way. I can't explain how, I can't explain why, but I've seen it happen over and over again. The clearer that you get about who you want to serve, the more of those are going to come your way. And the way you do that is by defining who they are. So again, if you figure out what their careers are, what their house values are, where they live, their marital status, if they have kids, what they like to do, as vacation. Start writing out your perfect client, and you'll be surprised how things will start to come to fruition. How what you thought was only nice to have, the idea of I could have 50 of those 3 clients, I would have the most amazing design build practice in the world, right? Because I'd be able to work with people that I love every single day. They would value me, they would pay me what I'm worth, and they will refer their friends because they are raving fans of our work. How much more powerful is it going to be than that? I don't know that it can. But be careful when you clarify who your ideal clients are. Because if you do something, I'm going to give you a bad example here. If you give or write it down or think about, I want to have homeowners who live within 30 miles of my practice, and that is your entire avatar. How clear do you think that's going to be to the universe and to any of your marketing pieces that you put out there, if that's who you're going after? Not very clear. The clearer you are with that, the clearer the universe is going to be able to hand this stuff back to you. Again, you just have to believe it. I've seen it happen for myself, and it blows my freaking mind. But you just have to believe that it's going to be that way. Now, a good example would be, hey, this client lives no more than 30 minutes from my shop or from my practice. They have a home value of $500,000. They're 35 to 50 years old. She's in healthcare, he's in finance. They love the outdoors, hiking, kayaking, all the outdoor stuff. They love being outside. They're married, they have 2 kids. He drives a BMW, she drives a Toyota. They belong to XYZ Golf Club, and they like to get away once a year to the Caribbean with their family because they really value family time and going to spaces that are warm when it's cold at home. They love hanging out with friends and being the center of entertainment. Imagine how powerful it would be if that was a client you talked to every single day, assuming that was your list of ideal client scenario or criteria. Imagine how powerful it would be and how awesome it would be to be able to serve people that love you and that you love every single day. Now, I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely possible. Even though this sounds like rainbows and unicorns and I put the universe in there and everything as well, I didn't believe it at first either until I started writing this stuff out. And then all of a sudden, this stuff started happening. Because then when I do spend that advertising dollars, I'm putting it into talking to that exact client, to that exact demographic. And then they start talking to me. So it's really important. It's really important that you get that clarified first, because you want to direct all of that energy in the right way, because the last thing you want to do is spend a ton of money on advertising just to get a phone call from somebody who tells you about this incredible outdoor living space that they want to include in their property, all to find out they live in a trailer, right? I actually had that happen to me. That's why I'm bringing it up. It's incredible, but that was years ago before I had this clarity. But anyway, that's the first step, is to get your ideal client very, very specifically laid out so you know exactly who you're speaking to. Because if you're speaking to the right clients with the right message, your closing rates are automatically going to start going up because they already love you, they already love what you offer, and they love your story, and everything works. So your closing rate automatically starts to bump. Step 2 here is going to be, all right, this is a big one, especially for design build professionals, ones that are starting out or ones that are veterans that have been around for a very long time. It's the concept of tire kickers, right? How many times has that phone rang? And especially in the early years, you say, you know what, that phone rings, I'm out the door. I'm going to go talk to those people as fast as possible, because if I'm the first one to talk to them, there's a high probability I could sell them. I just got to get in front of them. I can sell them. I know exactly what we're doing here. Let's do this. Just to find out that they already had 3 people out already. You're the 4th one. Or they're just looking for free estimate, right? Come on out and give me a free estimate on X, Y, and Z around my property. Or I'm looking for a 10 by 12 patio and some steps. So if you aren't the cheapest, we're not really interested in working with you. Or my personal favorite here, I already know what this should cost. So I know your price is going to be too much because I already know what this should cost. Have you ever had clients like that? I know over the last 24 years, especially when I first started out, I sure did. And it was no fun. I felt like I was being used and abused. And, again, it always fell on those times. It was 8 o'clock on a Friday night, or 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning because I made a special arrangement to make sure I can be there when they were available. But those clients never bought. They took my time and they never bought anything from me. And once in a while I would sell one, but they were never excited. I wasn't excited about those clients. So we have to be careful about what that means. And we call them non-ideals. They are clients who are not ideal, do not fit within our ideal client box. And there are other ones that are just calling in to kind of get some free ideas. Now the question really is, how do we manage them, right? How do you, as a landscape design build professional, how do you manage working with them so that you don't, give the entire market a bad taste that, hey, XYZ company, they're snobby, they only take the best clients, they won't take anybody else. Like, you don't want that, of course. But how do you do it gracefully? How do you filter them out on a phone call instead of wasting that 45 minutes to get to their house, hour, 45 minutes back just to figure that out? That's the big question. What if there was a way you could actually figure all that out ahead of time? What if there was a way that you could do that within 20 to 30 minutes on a phone and never even get in your car, never even start your car? I'm here to tell you that it is possible with the right sales process. You're going to be able to do all of that. That's the interesting part here. So here's a couple of options you can integrate as well into a screening process. So this is some pretty basic ones, but this will help screen some of those people out. Because again, if you want to increase your closing rates, you need to get rid of the people who aren't going to buy from you. You need to know that as early as possible in this process, because the longer you wait, the more of your time that's going to be wasted. So first piece here, and we've instituted this years ago, is create a small questionnaire. It doesn't have to be crazy. Something you can do on a Google platform, or there's some other online systems you can do questionnaires, and send out maybe 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 questions, whatever you might want to ask them. Things that you think will help you understand the project better, and the information that you wouldn't necessarily want to waste time talking about, but you still need the information. Things like, I don't know, are there any restrictions on the property? Are there, how big is your underground tank if you have a propane tank? Things like, is there an HOA in your where your house is at? Anything like that, like basic stuff. But the point is, you can get in some other pieces as well. We can talk deeper about that later. But the point is, if you give them an obstacle, a simple obstacle that would take them a few minutes to do and send back to you, and they decide not to do it, there's a very, very high probability that they were never going to hire you in the beginning. So a couple things happen here. First is, you don't actually have to tell them no if you don't want to tell them no, you're not a good fit. You can let the questionnaire do that for you, because if they don't engage your services, they decided to stop, not you. Second thing, if they do decide to send that questionnaire back in, which I will tell you on our side here, well over 50 to 60% of the calls that we send it out on and do send it back, so that immediately weeds out all those other people who would never have hired you anyway. Because think about it, if someone's going to spend 5 to 10 minutes to fill out a questionnaire, there's a high probability that they really want to talk to you, and they realize this is your process and they must do it in order to engage your time. People who truly value what you do and want you personally to do the work will have no problem doing whatever you ask them to do within reason. So don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that putting a little bit of an obstacle in their way to getting your time is absolutely essential to making sure they're not going to be wasting your time long term. So that's one piece, the questionnaire. Second is you don't charge for design. It's everybody talks about this, right? How much do you charge for designs? And that's all over the map, from a couple hundred to tens of thousands of dollars. And it really, at this point, from my point of this conversation, it doesn't matter. Again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the client to agree that you are the best choice, because there's very few people who will spend a couple hundred or a couple $1,000s over 3, 4, 5, or 6 different companies, right? They won't do that. They're going to pick one and put their money in that ship, and they're going to sail it. But if you don't charge for your design, and 3 other people show up and they don't charge for the design as well, guess what? They're going to say yes to everybody. So now it's down to price. Sometimes ideas, most of the time it's price. And do you really want to be in a price war with a bunch of people who don't have the overhead structure you have, don't have the skills you have, don't have the expertise or the creativity you have? I don't think so. So by adding in that charging for design, it's going to help you weed those people out even more. Again, raising those close rates. The goal is you're not leaving your office and you're filtering out people who were never going to buy from you in the beginning, but you're doing it on a phone call, not after 2.5, 3 hour round trip. Does that make sense? Another big one that you can do that makes it even easier if you decide to do none of the other ones is the 1 to 2 week waiting period to get a meeting with you. So in the springtime, sure, everybody's busy. It's not that big a deal. They can easily say, I'm busy, not a big deal. You can get 2 or 3 weeks out, and that's just what it is. But where it takes the skill is when you're really not busy and you know you could go out in the next few days to meet a client, that you still give it a 1 to 2 week wait. This does a couple of different things. The first thing it does to the client side is they say, wow, this guy or this gal is really in demand. Others want him or her, and that's why he or she can't get out here until next week, 2 weeks. That's pretty cool. I like that. Now there is definitely a gauge to that, like too much. Like if you said I can't get to you for 6 months, then people are going to be like, hey, unless you're some really special designer, there's a high probability that they are going to be like, look guys, like we need this done. We're hoping for it this year. We're gonna have to keep looking around. That's just too long. But 1 to 2 weeks really helps them think about it. And if they're willing to set a meeting with you for 1 to 2 weeks out, there's a higher probability that they're not just excited right now because he or she came home from work with a bonus and said, let's spend it right now. We got to spend it before we, on the backyard before we spend it anywhere else. So with that being the case, you don't want those guys, because trust me, those are the people that just blow their money as fast as possible and they want the most for the least. And that's typically not our client. So again, 1 to 2 weeks helps calm them down. And the people who truly want to invest in you and your services and creativity, they'll wait for you. So that's, again, those are 3 things really quick here. You can do the questionnaire to give them a bit of an obstacle to go over in order to get to you personally. That'll help increase your closing rates. Same with charging for your design. That works even better yet. And then also you have the 1 to 2 week waiting period in order for you to come out. If you combine all of those, that's what we personally do at Master Plan. We combine all of those. What that's going to do is it's going to help really fortify the lead itself. Because if they're willing to do all of those things for you, they want you. They're not going to go with somebody else. They want you. And then you can focus your time, not on the people who are running around trying to steal it from you or get free ideas on Friday night or Saturday, and you realize that you end up missing your kid's basketball game or your daughter's spelling bee because you had to run out after these people because maybe, just maybe, they would buy from you if you could just get in front of them. It's gone. Because you can go there knowing that there's a really high probability that they're going to buy from you and that you're going to help them buy and that you're going to be able to add value and that they want you. So important. Now, if you really want to bump this up and get into what we like to call a pro move, you institute a screening process. Now, I've already mentioned a few up here, but a screening process that helps, again, on the phone. This takes no more than about 20 to 30 minutes on the phone. It's the best 20 or 30 minutes you'll ever spend with your client throughout the entire process. And it goes through a whole process of narrowing the focus of a client's wants, right? How many times have you received a phone call from a client who has a wish list that's like 17 items long of all these cool things they want in their backyard with no focus on what's really truly important? And then you go to the site, you sit down with them, and they are all over the map. And as a designer, we can't figure out what is important and what isn't important. So how do you actually nail that down? We're able to nail it down in the first phone call. So when we go out and meet with them for the first time, we already know exactly what their highest priority is, and then 2 additional priorities as well. So we can paint a picture for them and work with them in order to clarify. People pick up the phone and call us because they need a guide. They don't want a hero, they want a guide. They want somebody who's going to be able to help them take their ideas and bring them to life, but they've only probably done this, well, maybe never, or maybe once in their life. It's like buying a home when it comes to outdoor living. It's not something people do all the time. So we're here as the guides, first and foremost, to make sure that we can help them understand what's possible, what they need and what they don't need, and to be able to guide them toward a solution. So having that focus and clarity really helps us get there much faster. Now, another big question is, and this ties into a whole nother level of psychology, but how long have they wanted this project? Is this something they just thought about this weekend when they're having beers with their buddies in the backyard? Or is this something they've wanted for 20 years that they've been saving for and saving for and saving for? till one day they can finally build this incredible space. How important do you think is knowing that before you ever go out to this site, before you ever meet them face to face? I know for us, it's huge. And what have they done so far? That's the next question. So what have they done so far toward this project? Asking a question like this, really, especially on the first phone call, really opens them up, being honest with you. And if it's put in the right order, they're willing to share that intimate detail with you, because oftentimes the response I get, and the response I've heard from others who use the system, is that you hear back, well, you know what? We had 3 other guys out here, but we didn't really like any of them. Or, you know, my husband started the project and didn't finish it. Or, you know what? We've done nothing so far. We've been dreaming of this for 20 years, and we haven't even taken one shovel to the backyard and actually done anything with it yet. So understanding that information, first of all, is super powerful, because then you know exactly where they are in this process. And it also weeds out really quickly in this conversation, again, on the phone, whether these people are do-it-yourselfers, whether these people hire everybody to do things, whether they find value in design, whether they have attempted this project and have failed. All of this stuff is known ahead of time. Another big one is project scale. So think about it. You get all these 16 different things they want, you get out there and you start realizing that without clarity, what exactly am I out here to do? Am I putting the fire pit in? Am I putting the fireplace in? They talked about a water feature. We talked about a swimming pool. They wanted a koi pond. They wanted the deck. They wanted the roof. Like, where are we? And we're going to get in the budget in a minute, but what's the budget for this project? You know, you must be thinking they must be sitting on some big bank in order to be able to do this, right? They must be sitting on so much money because they know what this stuff costs, right? No, they don't know. So project scope is important. Understanding exactly what they hope to accomplish, and then we can start wheeling them, like pulling them back in a little bit and say, all right, guys, let's start talking about what things cost. And that's really the next piece. Imagine a world where you can go out to a project and already know their budget before you step foot on the ground. And yeah, you're probably thinking, yeah, not everybody's going to give me budget. I've done that before. I've asked 100 times, and some people just don't give me budget. Let me let you in on a little secret. I get budget every single time, because I won't go out to a site without having a budget written down. And if they give me a number and I find that it's really, really low, and for their top priority, and their top 3 priorities, that there's no way in hell I can possibly build it for that, I'll have to talk to them about what that means right then and there on the phone, and not waste that 3 to 4 hours going out there to find that out later. It's all on the phone. And there's tactful ways of doing that, and it's a matter of understanding when that question can be asked. You can't call up a customer and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, how you doing? What's your budget? Way too early. Obviously, you know that. But you have to earn the right to ask that question. And you're probably asking, what does that mean? You need to figure out when that makes sense in a process. We already know that because we know exactly where to place this question. But this question, if it's placed in the right order, will have your client sharing those intimate details with you with no problem. They will be like, you know what? We're thinking it's $30,000 to $50,000 for a project like this, and we're hoping that covers. Next question would be, well, what do you hope that will cover? We hope that covers, the deck, the pool, the patio, whatever, right? And then you could say, look, there's no way in hell I can build a pool for that with a deck and a patio around it. Or they might say, I just want a patio and landscaping, and I have a $100,000 budget. And you're thinking, holy crap, that's a gigantic patio. So having that information before you go out to the job site, imagine how powerful that would be. And not even powerful in a way that you have power over someone, but that you know when you get there that the client is reasonable and that you can actually add value to their lives. Because if they are thinking 10,000 and you're thinking 110,000, you're never going to bridge that gap. You're going to waste a lot of time, and no one's got that to waste. So cut your ties, increase your closing rates by not entertaining clients that don't have the budgets that you need, but understand by finding that out now ahead of time. And that first call in the first 20 to 30 minutes of your relationship is going to be huge. Think about how powerful that would be. Also we want to think about, what is their engagement intent? What is the intent that they have in engaging you? Are they looking for design only? Are they looking for design build? Are they looking for, I got a design, I want you to build it? Like, what is their intent? Wouldn't that be nice to know ahead of time in the first call? Wouldn't it be nice to know that, all right, I'm going out to Mrs. Jones's house. She loves my work. It's fantastic. That's good. She's looking for a design. Her husband's a little bit handy. So she's mentioned that through this process. So there's a high probability that he might want to get his hands dirty on something. So let's figure out where we can get him something to do and then be able to do what we do best. So maybe we have him come in and do the demo work, right? He can feel good. He knocked the trees down and pulled some bushes out and knocked the deck down and took it away. We can come in and do what we'd love to do and build stuff. We can work some kind of partnership that way. But they're not throwing that in later. You're knowing that ahead of time. So understanding their intent, or another scenario would be, I'm only looking to hire you for the design. And if you charge, I'll pay you for it, but I'm gonna have my buddy Billy Bob, he's a landscaper, he's gonna come in and do it all for me. Wouldn't it be nice to know that ahead of time? I know it is for us, because when we hear that people are looking for designs and they have somebody else that can build it, if we're super busy, we gracefully, decline the opportunity. We say, look, guys, we're super busy. We are design build, right? We want to design and bring our little children that we design and create to life. We love that process. That's who we truly are, and that's what we're going to do. If you're looking for just design, then maybe a designer would be great for you. But if you are a designer and that works for you, then that's great. You know what's going on. You don't have to find contractors then. So understanding the intent, super important. Again, first 20 minutes to 30 minutes of the relationship. So all of that is super important to know that in order to be able to gauge how to interact with clients, if they're the right fit for you, if they're ideal clients. And also by doing that, you're elevating or you're increasing the certainty you have on being able to help them buy or to sell the project to them. So I hope all this makes sense. So step 3 here is setting client expectations higher on that first call, so that you can get paid the premium that you're worth. How many times have you been to projects where people say, you know what, I'm not going to pay you, $10,000 for that. I got a guy that'll do it for less. How many times does that happen? I know for me, it's happened in the past. When I was a younger company, before I had any kind of system in place, it happened a lot. People would say, like, I just don't see the value. And the crazy part is, it's not tough to add that premium feeling or that premium value into your offering as a business. It all starts, this might sound crazy, but it all starts with systems, right? I personally love systems. I think they're fantastic. If I can get something to do, like a software package or a certain way we do things each time the same way, that just alleviates my mind to be more creative when it comes to designing new things. So that takes all that extra analytical thinking off my plate, and I can focus on what I truly love to do, which is create and solve problems, right? So creating a system. So having a systemized first phone call gives the client a feeling that you probably run your business with systems too. And if you run it with systems, people love systems, right? Because at the end of the day, a car is a system, your iPhone is a system. Like, I can keep going all the way through. Everything is a system. A lamp is a system, right? So people trust that type of a concept. So understanding that they have certain things they have to do and next steps they have to take is going to be super important for clients to really engage your services. Another piece here is that keep in mind that everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold to, right? Everybody wants to buy a nice car, but nobody wants to go to the dealership and have a guy sell them a car. They want to go there and buy it themselves. They want to go there and buy it on their own free fruition. They just want to go there and do it. So we have to make sure that we're that conduit for them. It's part of the sales process, right? We're offering it as a service. The sales side is a service to help guide them to their solution. When is the right time for have them to know? So the first phone call is super important. Make sure that they know that, and that's going to have to go through your entire process. You're going to have these systems in place in order to make sure that everything makes sense as you go, so they can feel that same experience each time they engage your services. Or if they send their neighbor to you and they said how great a job that you guys did for them, and then all of a sudden the system, or not the system, but the experience is totally different for them, how excited do you think you're going to be? The neighbor is going to be excited to tell the other neighbor beyond. It's not going to happen. As soon as they get a sense that it's completely different. They're going to feel like that was a one-hit wonder, and you're just stuck with, we just got lucky. That's all it was. But in order to grow a business, especially in a way that you can close that or increase your closing ratio, you're going to have consistency, because you want raving fans out there, your ideal clients who love you. You want raving fans who will tell everybody that they can possibly find about how awesome you are. And in order to do that, you need to make sure that you can offer that level of service all the time. So that's step 3. Set your expectations high from the very first phone call. Get them the feeling that there's systems in place that are going to serve the client and make their process and the overall experience awesome for them. Step 4 here is another one. It's a little bit different, but another way you can raise your closing ratio on projects and increase your overall profit and revenue in the year is to do what I like to call mining for gold. Now, what I mean by that is, how many of you have projects that are going on right now and the client talked about a bunch of different things that they wanted in the project, and they decided to buy maybe 75% of those things this time around, right? They decided to say, look, we're going to do the patio and the landscaping, the lighting, we're going to do the water feature, but maybe in the future we'll do something else in the front of the house. And then once they've made the decision to move forward with that first phase, you start getting a sense that, I think that once the lighting in the back of the house is done, the front of the house is going to look bad. Or, the landscaping is a little beat in the front of the house, and in the back it's going to be all nice and fresh. Maybe I should have a conversation with those clients about what it could mean to just swap out some plantings, maybe add some lighting in the front, maybe fix a couple of things around the yard that they didn't notice, like maybe a low spot where the water settles that you noticed, or an area that is has a hard time growing grass. These are all little itty bitty pieces that, believe it or not, clients actually appreciate that you see and that you're willing to help them with. Now, not every client's going to jump on board and say, all right, guys, go for it. I got all the money in the world to spend. But what you can do is at least offer it. We have great success with this, where clients, it takes a little bit for them to get on board sometimes with projects that are, very large. But once they're on board and their minds have been set and have made for that project to be done, they're more open to extra options and add-ons than they are during the process of just trying to make that initial decision to do the bigger project. So again, we call it mining for gold, and we do this for each project. We go through and look at options, and I'd say we have at least a 50 to 60% ability for clients to say, yeah, let's do that. Let's add those extra pieces in there. Let's have this project grow just a little bit, a couple $1,000. But what could a couple $1,000 mean on half of your projects in a year as an increase in revenue and keeping your crews busy as well, plus adding more value? All we're doing here is we're adding as much value to those clients as we possibly can. What does that mean for your bottom line when you can do it that way? You don't have to find a client. They already love you. They've already given you a check. You already know what bushes and plants they love. Their certain palette. The paver you're going to use in the back. The lighting you're going to use in the back. So you're just adding a little bit more to that. Your crews are there working already. So it's even a bigger benefit to them from a cost standpoint. You can sell it that way too. Say, look, my guys are already there. They're already working. They're doing the back. If we add lighting to the front, we're going to be able to do it at a discount right now. Maybe it's just a small discount, but I imagine there's some savings there. And a client will see that, because if they're going to love the back and then not like the front, and then in a year from now call you to do the front and it costs them $1,000, $2,000 more, that's a waste of money. In my opinion, it's a waste of money. And it's something you can tell a client, look, I'm trying to preserve your your capital here, and this is, I see an opportunity, if you see it as a value as well, that we could do this now instead of next year or the following year. So again, a nice way to mine for some gold in order to get a client excited about a project, additional pieces to the project. Now, there's also things like, for instance, sound, right? Everybody loves sound. If you can control it with your iPhone, it's really kind of cool, especially during a party. You can turn your music on all from your little iPhone. But clients love those pieces as well. And maybe in the beginning, when you're originally trying to get them involved with a big project, they push those things to the side and they say, you know what, those are great, but they aren't priorities right now. But again, once they've made that decision, all of a sudden they see themselves out there in the backyard without proper entertainment. Or they're sitting out there and you're talking to them and they're not talking anything about that crazy road noise you hear off in the distance. It's like you're sitting there and you feel like you're sitting in the middle of the highway. You might mention to them, hey, you know what, a water feature would really help dampen that sound, or perimeter plantings on that side would help, or a fence, or whatever it might be, in order to help dampen that sound, because they might not notice it because they're used to it, but once you point it out, they're going to notice it. So that's something you can plug in the design, and if they omit it later because of budget, you can always tickle them again with that. And when you're out there building it, say, you know what, I know you guys decided not to do the water feature, but imagine if we could just get some of that sound from that road to go away. And all of a sudden they start thinking, you know what, he might have been right, or she might have been right. I think it's time we do that. That could be a couple grand more to the bottom line. Again, increasing your rate of revenue, and also helping with that closing rate as well. Not closing the original client, but including increasing the value of that client over time. So again, a couple pieces there on the mining for gold. You know, it's a matter of being creative. You know, things like, I'm just going to give you a list of examples I think that would be really low-hanging fruit you guys could incorporate. You know, you can get into, let's see, maybe your client talked about a shed or a play set during your conversation. You could offer to manage that for them. Most of our clients are too busy. They're too busy to do these things, and they don't want to mess up. The sense of regret would be too high if they messed up, and they feel like they're going to be wasting money. So what they'll do is it's like, yeah, no problem, Josh. You guys manage that stuff. So we'll charge them a management fee, and we'll work with the shed or the playset company, and we'll bring them in, get the base all set for them, and let them set that structure right there, or pull the permits for them. That's another big one. Homeowners hate getting permits. So if you're going to get them for them and charge them a fee to get those permits, there's more. That's another option to increase the revenue per project. You can think about things like when you look at a garbage can sitting there next to the house and you say, you know what, there's nowhere to hide that. You could create a garbage can, you know, little storage area. Also for firewood or kids' toys in plain sight. All of that stuff, because clients, higher echelon clients, see this as a problem but haven't really thought about it being something that needs to be solved. But when you offer it as part of your plan or part of your overall scope, all of a sudden it becomes possible for them, and that could be really big. You could, again, I mentioned the noise with the water feature. That's a great way to do that. If you notice them backing out of their driveway, right, and every time they back out of the garage, they're swiping into the yard, creating a little mud pit where water collects, and they're always getting their car muddy and dragging it down the driveway. You could say, look, I see some wear on the edge of the driveway. Would you like us to extend that for you? In order to make sure that you don't drag all that mud through and get it on your brand new BMW or Toyota or whatever it might be. Again, just being present and seeing opportunities where you could help them, not just make more money. That'll be a side benefit of this, but you're going to help them solve problems that they've had, but they haven't really decided they wanted to solve right away because they didn't know who to call for something so small. But if you can solve those problems, dude, it's cash in your bank, and it keeps your guys busy. That's the main thing here, right? Let's see, downspouts, another big one. If you see downspouts running right out to the edge of the house and stopping, or just running out with that little 3-foot pipe sticking out, you might want to ask the clients, you know, have you ever had a problem with water in the basement? And if they say, well, yeah, sometimes when it really rains, say, I know exactly why. It's because your downspouts, assuming that's the correct problem, your downspouts, they lead out 3 foot from your foundation, and they just sit there. What do you think is going to happen when it rains? I have a solution. We can bury those, drop them in the yard, 20, 30 feet from the house, and do pop-ups to get them out into the yard, to get it far away from the house. Get that water as far away from that house as we possibly can. Would you like us to prepare you a quote for that? And you'd be surprised how many people say, yes, I do not want water in my basement. I don't want mold down there. I don't want any of that stuff. Again, it's another opportunity. What about people who put Christmas lights up and they're always running extension cords everywhere? You could easily say, look, guys, we'll run you an outlet out there, or 5 outlets out there, so you don't have to do that anymore. And then see what they say. If you can solve a problem for them, you're going to end up on the winning side of this, and you're going to build rapport with that client. It's huge. You know, if people are getting tired of, say, for instance, their mailbox is constantly getting hit by cars along the road, why not do some kind of a landscaping arrangement? Maybe there's some big boulders there too to slow that process down so people will see it and stay away from it and not keep hitting them. Again, just trying to think creatively here about how we can solve these problems for people. You know, most people are willing to spend a few $1,000s more to enhance a project to make it even more usable, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. And we have to be smart in the way we do it, because we're here to serve and here to do as much as we can for our clients. You know, don't be afraid as landscape design build professionals to partner with electricians and plumbers and you know, audio video guys and people that are outside of your everyday offering. to be able to offer your clients more. All of our workers are specialists to us. We have no crews. So the way we do it is all through Design Manage. And we're allowed then to bring in the very best within the industry to offer our clients the highest level of service. And it doesn't fit for everybody, let's put it that way. Sometimes we have some clients who are like, you know what, I don't want AV in my yard, I don't want any speakers or sound, and that's okay. But we always have the opportunity to offer that to clients so that they can have the most incredible experience. Because think about it, the better the experience is with that they're having in their backyard, how much more are they going to talk about it? How much more are they going to tell their friends to come over and see this banging backyard that was just finished? You got to see this thing. And how much more work do you think that sells over time? So I see this as win-win. You end up with more revenue, and on top of that, you actually end up with more clients that call you because they love what you're doing. You're doing something different than everybody else. That's really an interesting part of this. Now, I know the main reason why you guys reached out here is to get a better sense of how you're going to be able to increase your closing rates, to double it in a small time. I personally have doubled my revenue in 1 year by just jumping up a few percentage points here, and I'll even get into that in a minute, in order to get a better closing rate and to enjoy the fruits of that labor. So, if the average closing rate in design build businesses is somewhere between 25 and 50%, again, 1 in 4 projects say yes, or 2 in 1 project say, or 1 in 2 projects say yes. Imagine what would happen if you were at 70% or 90%. Imagine if you are at 90% close rate. So you went to 10 projects and 9 said yes. Imagine what that would be like. Imagine how many fewer projects you would have to go on in order to get that number, in order to get the revenue that you want. How much more time would you have with your family and friends if you weren't running all those meetings that ended up being nothing? All those ones that just kind of blow away, the ones that should have been broomed in the beginning, but you knew that if you went and talked to them, that they would become your client, and it didn't happen. How much different would your life be? I know personally, it made a gigantic difference in my life. And I've seen it make a gigantic difference in other people's lives as well. I originally was around 70% closing rate for years, created and implemented this system 2 years ago, and now we're up well over 90%. And that 20% difference between 70 and 90 has doubled my revenue. It sounds like the math isn't right, but it did. And most of the time, the reason why that happens is because people are willing to spend more with you because they feel like you know what you're doing. They feel like you have a process in place that they absolutely can admire and get involved with. They understand what's coming next. Huge. So again, from 70 to 90% double my income within 1 year. And what I'm telling you is that if you're at a 25 to 50% range, most people doing our system, they're at least, even if they do it bad, they're at a 60 to 70% closing range. What would that mean for you? Not just money, but time. Would you be able to get to your kid's baseball game if you didn't have to run those 7 o'clock Friday evening meetings, or your daughter's piano recital on Saturday? Think about that. And then having the added benefit of additional income, being able to feed more crews, being able to build bigger things, being able to enjoy life at a higher level, all of that comes with it. So, there is a systemized way to get rid of those tire kickers. You need to figure out what your ideal client looks like in the beginning, and then get rid of the tire kickers. And then we need to be thinking about how we screen effectively. Mine for gold as much as you possibly can. And in the relationship, I mentioned this many times, but you are the guide, not the hero. Nobody wants to hear about your story. What they want is they want to be heard. Clients want to be heard, and they want to have someone who's going to be with them through the entire process. That's what they want from beginning to end. That's all they're looking for. So you need to add as much value as you possibly can. So some tips here as I finish up is going to be, adjust your marketing, first of all, the money you are spending in marketing, to hit that target demographic, that target ideal avatar, that client that you're like, I wish I had 1,000 of them. Make sure that everything you're writing, posting on social media, whatever you might be doing, that it's targeted directly at what they care about. Because when you do that, they start to engage you, and then they start to hire you to do work that you want to do and pay you what you're worth. It's a huge piece right there. Now, guys, I know I threw a lot at you today throughout this process. And what I really want to get through to you is that if you can take the leads you have coming in now, screen them better, have them understand more of what you do through a process. You're going to get more of them to say yes to you. And when you raise that closing rate, you increase your sales with the leads you have coming in now without having to spend another dollar on advertising. That's my point. That was my offer to you for reaching out and watching this webinar, and I certainly appreciate that you did that. But I want to make sure that you've really fully grasped how simple it is to get to that point. I struggled for years trying to figure this out. And one day I realized, if I could just get more of them to say yes, I wouldn't need a lot more people to call me. Again, 50% of people say yes to me. That means the other 50% didn't. If I could just get that to 60 or 70%, where would I be? So I hope you guys have got a lot from our webinar today. And over here at Yes Express, we have a proven system for the landscape design build world, right? I've tested it, broken it, improved it, made it better, and now we know that this thing will absolutely deliver the type of results that I'm talking about. This system helps you work through and vet those clients in the very beginning, get deeper into the psychology of why they're buying, getting a sense of what they're trying to accomplish. Then you have the opportunity to tell them a bit about your business, get into understanding what their overall intent is for the project, getting budget nailed down, and understanding a lot of details that are going to be super important, like how many different people are going to be bidding this project, and what is your long-term intent for your engagement with me. All of that you'll know within the first 20 to 30 minutes of a phone call, and it will not require you to go all the way out to site to find out and spend that 3 hours to find it. So I want to leave that with you guys today. If you have any questions about this process, or if you have any questions at all about this webinar today, you can either hit me up here in the chat box, or you can reach out to us at Yes Express. You can find us on Facebook, Yes Express. There's only one of them, so take a look. Reach out to us. You can DM us there, and we can answer any questions you might have. So thanks for tuning in, guys.